Hello everyone. So in this module, we are going to be discussing two case studies which are going to be helping you so that whenever there will be any question in the system design round, you will be able to answer it. So first of all, we are going to be seeing how can we design a chatting app. So when you talk about chatting, what kind of application I'm actually targeting here. So if I want to interact with my friends, if I want to talk to them, if I want to send messages to them, to my friends or acquaintances, anyone. So in that case, I am going to be needing a chatting application. So this is the question which is going to be coming to you in the interview. So just put yourself in the interview scenario. So assume that you are sitting in an interview and somebody is asking you this question. So as soon as chatting application is thrown to you, then you tell me what are the different applications that are going to be coming in your mind. So when you talk about chatting application, so what and all we are going to be having. So it can be something like WhatsApp. It can be something like Viber, right? It can be something like Messenger. It can be something like Instagram DM. And we even have Telegram. So we use in many other applications. So we use all of these applications so that we can able to send a message. Okay. So when anyone is going to be given you this question that you have to design a chatting application, so these are the names which will start flashing in your brain. So you should be thinking what we should be doing next. So how I should be proceeding with this, what should I do, what should be the ideal thing, what we should be doing here. So should I start designing, what should I do? So before anything we need to figure out what actually the interviewer intends us to build. So whatever he wants to build, we are going to be proceeding in that direction. So we will have to check them that are you looking for something like WhatsApp, or you just want to make an application like Messenger. Since both are chatting application, but there is a slight difference between both of them. And what is that difference? When you talk about WhatsApp, so that is always attached to a device. Everything is going to be stored on your local machine, your local mobile. On the other side, when you talk about Messenger, so that is a web based application. It is not attached to your device. You can access it from multiple devices. So, why I'm actually telling you about this segregation, because whether I am building WhatsApp or whether I'm building Messenger, my whole design of storing messages is going to be changing. So, if it is WhatsApp, I will focus on storing everything on the local device. But if it is a Messenger, then I would like to store it on a central server. So when somebody will ask you that, okay, you have to design a chatting application, so you should be thinking based upon the experience of using different kinds of chat applications. You should think about it that what is the difference between them, and also you need to make sure that what kind of chatting application they want you to create. Should it be a WhatsApp or should it be a Messenger? And then your interviewer will think, okay, this person is thinking beyond what I have given. So let us say he wants you to design a WhatsApp. So the very first step which you will have to do is to get the clarity on problem statement. All right. So you will have to gather the requirements accordingly. If you guys remember, I told you the first step is always going to be requirement gathering. All right. So you need to see what are going to be the we will be having different kinds of requirements. we will have some functional requirements and some non-functional requirements. So we can start with the functional requirements. Okay. So when you talk about functional requirements, so these are those set of requirements which will always define the functionality for which the customer is waiting. If you are going to do these functionalities, then the customer is going to get happy. So when you talk about functional requirements, so these are the actual functionality for which customers are waiting. So when you talk about a chatting application, so what should be the first functional requirement? That a person should be able to send a message to the another person. All right. What could be the another functional requirement? So that is like if you are sending a message and if the person is offline, so the message should not get lost, right? All right. What should be the another functional requirement? That I should be able to know who all are online. So what could be the next functional requirement? That I should be able to get all the pending messages when I get online. What does it mean? If you are offline, other persons must be sending you some messages, right? So if you are going online, so you should get pending messages. What could be the another functional requirement? That if you want, you should be able to share media. So you should be able to share media, you should be able to send a location, you should be able to send a contact. Also, like, if somebody is misbehaving with you and if you want, you should be able to block a user. What else could be the functional requirement? Like if you are sending a message, in that case, your message encryption should be there. So you should be getting privacy and message encryption. What else can be there? You should be able to you should be able to create groups. You should be able to send messages in that group. So should be able to create groups, should be able to send messages in groups. So like, we can actually have even more than these functional requirements, but these are some basic requirements which we are going to be having, right? So like, first of all, you should be just listing down what could be the functional requirements, and the another one is going to be the non-functional requirements. So after we have seen the functional requirements, the next we are going to be discussing that what are the non-functional requirements for this kind of application. So, but like, when you talk about the non-functional requirements, so here we are going to be discussing those concepts which we have discussed as a part of your system design. So, what could be the non-functional requirement here? Like, if two-person are online and if you are chatting with a person, so if you send a message, then you will like a message that, okay, if I'm sending somebody a message, So what I was exactly trying to say that if this is a user A, if this is a user B, and if they are sending messages to each other, what we would be liking that they should be able to send messages in real time. All right. So that is something which we should always be considering. So if you talk about like, here, how the interface is exactly going to be there. So you are going to be having some screen like this where you are going to be seeing some old chats. There you will be having a text box and then you will have a send button. So what you will expect the moment you are clicking on the send button, you will expect that the message will get sent at that time, and you should also like the other person should also be like when the other person is exactly going to be seeing that message, so he should be able to see that message at the same time. So of course there is going to be a delta of t. So what is delta t here? So let us say you have sent a message at some timestamp, like, let us say 8, 4, and let us say here you have sent it at 5 milliseconds. Okay. So if this is the sending time, what you will be expecting that it should get delivered around the same time. So if it is getting delivered at this time, so that is still going to be okay. If it is even taking like let us say 2 seconds, that is also okay. So what we try that this delta in t, this should be as less as possible. So what we expect that your message should be sent on real time, and you will also expect that it should get delivered on time and faster. Right? So this is what our expectation is going to be there from a chatting application. Now, what the next thing which we are going to be expecting out of it? So like, we have something which we call as cap theorem. So here, like, you should be considering it something like a triangle. So C means consistency. A means availability. And P means partition tolerance. So if you are going to be understanding this cap theorem from the theory perspective, so what they will say, they are going to say that out of these three things, you should be able to achieve only two at a time in any of the applications. So they say either you can achieve CA or you can achieve AP or you can achieve CP. So these two things like, either you can achieve consistency and availability, or you can achieve consistency and partition tolerance, or you can achieve availability and partition tolerance. So this is what this theorem says from the theory perspective. But if you are going to be considering it from the practical perspective, so we say that partition tolerance should be there. Apart from that, based upon the requirement, you are going to be determining if you are going to need consistency or availability. What does it mean? So when you talk about the partition tolerance, so it means if for any reason your system goes down, in that case, your system should be like designed in a way that if any fault is coming, so it should be able to tolerate it. And how we can achieve it? We can maintain duplicate data. We can have some replication factor. So generally, we create copies of our data, and by maintaining copies, we ensure that if because of any reason, if one of our node goes down, since your system should be up and running. Now there is consistency and availability. So consistency means like you talk about banking application. So if you are sending somebody some money, so what you will want before sending the money and after sending the money, it should be consistent. Correct? Like no other changes should be there. But when you talk about availability, so that means the application should be available for you. So like let me take some quick example. If I talk about WhatsApp, so what I'll expect out of WhatsApp, that it should be available. So like that is something which should be there, because if your application is not up, you are not going to be okay with that, right? So when you talk about WhatsApp, so the two things which you are going to be having is going to be your partition tolerance and A. So these two things should be there. Like I'll take one more example here. Let's talk about IRCTC. So for that, you should be having partition tolerance and consistency, because if you are booking a ticket now, even after 2 hours, if you are logging in, you will still expect that ticket to be booked. That seat should be allocated to you. So that is how it is going to be working. So this is your non-functional requirement. Other one is, if you have some low bandwidth, you should still be able to make it work. So should work on low bandwidth. Also, like if tomorrow you are getting some load on that device, so you should be able to scale it. Should be scalable. Also, when you talk about resources, so it should take less resources. We can actually have more than this requirements as well, but what I have done, I have came up with some initial set of requirements for both your functional ways and the non-functional ways. So once your requirement thing is freezed, once you have decided, so what the next thing is going to be there, you are going to talk to your interviewer that what he is targeting in the next 30 minutes. Because if you talk about it practically, it's not at all possible that you can go ahead and proceed with all the requirements in the stipulated way. So what is the best thing, that you go ahead and ask him that, okay, tell me what and all things he wants you to perform. So that step we call as scoping. So decide which requirement to implement. Make sense? Now, once you have once you have scoped down, so what you are going to be doing, you will go ahead and you are going to perform implementation for that. And when you talk about implementation, you are going to be using all the concepts of your low level design. So here you are going to be using your design principles. You're going to be using the design pattern. Okay, so these are the things which are going to be there. So when you talk about the system design round, so this is just a reflection how, when you're going to be working in any industry, so how things are actually going to be working there. So whenever you will have to implement anything, you are going to be first of all doing the requirement analysis. Then you are going to scope out the phases, that what and all we are going to be delivering in which quarter. And after that, we are going to see that, we are going to perform some computation also there. So in the compute, we are going to be seeing how much data we are having, and based upon that, we will plan how we are going to go ahead and store it. At the same time, we are also going to see that if you are going to be performing some computation on your data, so how you are going to perform estimation. Actually, this estimation you do even before implementation. So that is how it is going to be there. In this one, you are going to be seeing that how much RAM you are going to be needing. So here we are actually going to be talking about how much bandwidth you are going to be using in your application. So basically here what we do the infrastructure estimation on high level. So when you talk about infrastructure estimation, so like, the first thing what we are going to be considering here, that now we are going to be talking about this infrastructure estimation on a broader level. All right. So, when we talk about the infrastructure estimation, so here the first thing which we will have to focus upon is, like, when you talk about any application, so when that is actually going to break down, or when that application is going to boil down, so all of that thing depends upon the total number of users which who are actually going to be using that application. So when you talk about WhatsApp, so there are going to be plenty of users all across the world, right? So let's say that we have some 2 billion users. Now it can happen that not every user of WhatsApp is going to be sending messages every day. So let us say that we have 50% active users only. All right. So, like, let us say that they are actually sending, like, some average messages per day. So, if you talk about 50% active users, so, like, you can say that it is actually, like, approximately going to be 1 billion. So let us say active users are actually sending some average of 10 messages per day. Like, I'm just taking some rough figures, okay? Even in the interviews, you will have to take some rough figures only in order to explain the concept, because they see how well you are able to understand the problem and able to resolve it. It doesn't matter what figures you are taking there, okay? So if you are average, like, on an average, you are sending 10 messages. So how many total messages you are going to be having per day? That is going to be some 10 billion, right? Now, like, we have to consider the size of each message. So let us say that size of one message is, let us say, some 10 sorry, 100 bytes. Okay, if we are sending 10 billion messages, so how many total size we are going to be needing? That is going to be 10 billion into 100 bytes, correct? Now, like, if you talk about 1 GB, so how many bytes 1 GB is going to be having? So that is going to be having roughly 1 billion bytes. So if you talk about the same here, so we can go ahead and convert this total bytes into GB as well, right? Because here, if you will see, what do we have? 10 power 3 billion bytes, right? So similarly, if you talk about this case, so what we are going to be having, if you talk about this amount of data, so how much it is, like, roughly how much data we are having here? So 10 terabytes of data, and this data we are actually going to be needing every day. I have actually taken an approximated value, okay? You can go ahead and compute it. So you can see that this much amount of data we are actually storing in a day. And, like, when we talk about storing our data, so it is incrementally stored. It is actually going to be stored in the server for 3 months. So, like, when you talk about your storage part here, so we are going to be storing that data for 3 months. So if you talk about the total size, how it is going to be there. So here we are talking about 1 TB, and then we are saying we are going to be needing it for 3 months. So how much it is going to be? 1 TB into 3 into 30 days. Correct. So we are going to be needing some 90 TB of data. Correct. So this much data we are going to be needing for 3 months. Now, if you talk about this data, this is too huge, right? So I'll have to consider something. I definitely cannot store this in a single machine, right? Because this is 90 TB of data, right? And at any point of time, like, this, like, when you talk about any data storage, so that should not be actually taking 70 more than 75% of the capacity, because if it is going to consume more than that, in that case what will happen, your performance is going to get impacted. So how much data we are actually going to be needing? So 75% of x, here we are going to be having 90 TB. So this is how we are going to be computing. So what does it mean? You should be actually having a size of 120 TB. Like, this much of data should be there. Then only you are going to be able to store 90 TB of data on that. All right. So like, let's talk about, I have 1000 GB per day. So what does it mean? How much I am actually data I'm exactly going to be having? So you will have some 1000 GB of data. You are going to be needing it for one day. Now, if I have to convert it into second, how much it is going to be there? So 25 into 60 and 60. So this is going to be GB per second. Roughly, you are going to be getting like 0.01 GB per second. Now what you can do, like, you can actually convert it into some MB. So you can actually have something like 11 Mbps. So this is the data, like, if I'll have to design a system, so it should be able to have a read and write operation at the speed of 11 Mbps. Okay, so it should be able to provide the throughput of 11 Mbps. If you talk about the read traffic, so that should also be equal to 11 Mbps. So what I have done here, I have performed some computation and we have realized that in my system, we cannot keep it at one place. So what we are going to be doing? We are going to be preferring distributed system. So we are going to distribute it across different machines. So like, this is how you should be able to perform the estimations on the high level design, that okay, if this much amount of data I'm going to be having, I can definitely cannot keep it on one machine. You are going to be putting it on different machines. Now the next one which we will cover is like, if you are getting some question like design TikTok, or if they will ask you that you design some Instagram reels, or YouTube shorts. So let us say this is what is the question. So like, the first thing you need to understand that what is the application. What is TikTok? Like if let us say you do not know what is that application, so you should always be checking with the interviewer that, okay, could you please tell me what this application is, what this application does, so that you will have the fair understanding across how you should be answering to that particular problem. So here, when you talk about TikTok, so what TikTok is? So this is the place where people like me or like you can either upload the video or view the video. All right. So now, if you have to talk about like, designing the same. So I told you the first step which you should be doing here is to gather the requirements. You should be able to know that what and all are the requirements, and you should be checking it with your interviewer that out of these requirements, what do you want me to implement? Okay. So when you talk about requirements, we have two types of requirements. You have functional requirements and the non-functional requirements. So let's see what are the functional requirements for this. So the first functional requirement is going to be that user should be able to upload the video. The other one is a user should be able to view the video. What the other one could be, that a user should be able to search the creators, like we are going to be like having certain creators, or you can say that we have going to be having certain profiles, and we should be able to search them, so that if we like it, we can go ahead and follow their videos. So able to search the creators. What else, like we should be able to be filter out the videos who are not following the guidelines. Like we have the option of reporting a user. So here you can put report user. Okay. What else could be there? Like if there are if you want to upload a video, before that if you want to edit it, so you should be able to edit the video. Other one could be like if there is some trending video, so you should be able to see what and all are the trending videos. You must have seen when you talk about YouTube, so there you have some option of trending videos. So similarly here also you should be able to display the trending videos. Apart from that, you should be able to like and subscribe the video. So you should be able to like and comment the video, and uh, the user should be able to subscribe the user. So here I have listed down some of the functional requirements. Like I said, from all these requirements, we need to first of all see that, when you will be having system design round, you will be getting some 40 to 45 minutes. So from all of these requirements, we need to first of all see that in next 40 to 45 minutes, you are going to be explaining one of these problems. So you should not be assuming that I should be able to answer each and everything here. Instead, you should be discussing with the interviewer that what and all things you should be presenting it out, what and all things you should be considering. And that is what we call as scoping. So you should be scoping down what and all requirements you are going to be implementing. Okay. So first I'm scoping it down. Later we will also be seeing what and all are the non-functional requirements for the same. So out of this, let us say that I am going to be implementing the ability to upload the video. The other one, out of these requirements, like let us say I should be able to watch the video. So you are going to be implementing this. Now, what else we should be doing here? Like let us say I want to have the option of reporting the user, because if you're not liking somebody's video, you should be able to report the user. Apart from that, let us say you are thinking that let me implement this part to like and comment the video. So what you have done, firstly you have listed down your functional requirements, and then you have scoped down that out of these requirements what and all you are going to be implementing. Correct? Now let's also see what are going to be the non-functional requirements. So let us say the first non-functional requirement which I want here is going to be the scalability. So when what I mean by scalability here is that if I am able to use this application today, then I should also be able to use this application from after 6 months. Even if you talk about 2 years, if we are able to use the requirement today, so I want that even after 6 months I should be able to use it. Even after uh, 1 year I should be able to use it, and so on. So what I'm trying to say that my performance here, whatever the performance which I'm getting here today, so that should be equal to the performance which I'm getting after 6 months. Similarly, even if I'm going to be using it after 1 year. So overall, what I want that I should be able to maintain its performance no matter at what point of time I am using it. Okay. The next one, if you guys remember the cap theorem. So like I said, partition tolerance is going to be there. But apart from that, what is the next thing which I would want from this application? As a user, what I will want, I want some entertainment. And if I want some entertainment, if I want to spend my time somewhere, I would like that application should be available. I'll not be okay if I'm opening the application and it says come after 2 hours, correct? Or we are down in this and that time period. So this is something which I'm not going to be preferring for such kind of application. So we should be considering availability and partition tolerance. So here we are talking about availability and partition tolerance. So whenever we design any of these applications, so you should always be maintaining a discussion that out of that app, what you are looking for. Are you looking for consistency or are you looking for availability? So based upon the application, we are going to be making that call. It's not that all the applications should be available. Of course, as a user, we would want all the applications should be available at all the time, but we should be looking at the use case of that application. If you talk about some banking applications, so if you talk about some banking applications or some booking applications, let us say the checkout page of Amazon or any other e-commerce website or any other place. So all of those things I would like consistent. If I'm placing some order today, tomorrow I do not want that order is not available. Correct? I would want to be able to see all of those things. So based upon the application, you are going to be taking a call that what are you going to be expecting out of it. All right. Now we are going to be looking into the next non-functional requirement, and that is going to be the security. So when you talk about any application, so what is that which you would want that none of the hacker should be able to hack the system and compromise account of all of the users, because if any such thing is happening, people are not at all going to be trusting those platforms, and if they are not going to trust those platforms, they are not at all going to be using them. Understand? Because when you talk about any of these platforms, like you talk about Instagram, YouTube, or anything, so there people are uploading their faces, so they are not going to be okay that their videos are getting misused or their data is getting stolen from there. So all of those things nobody is going to be expecting. So whenever you design such an application, security should be your utmost priority. Also, what you would be wanting, of course, whenever we are going to be designing any of the application, we would want it to work even on low network bandwidth. If some application is going to be demanding you to use it only on high speed, then it will be actually gathering, it is going to be gathering less number of users, because a lot of people are actually staying in different regions. Sometimes they are traveling. So considering all of those things, we should be coming up with those applications. Those can work even in the low internet conditions. In that case, they can gather more users across the time. Correct? The next one is if you are designing any of the application, so you should be able to use it across different operating system. Now, a lot of you can actually think that when I am talking operating system, then it should be only depending upon the laptop. But no, when I'm talking about operating system, so it could be like, it could be even on the mobile as well as on the laptop. So on the laptop, if you are using, let us say, Mac or Windows or Linux, it should be working on all of those operating system. Similarly, if you're using a mobile phone, so let us say it is a Windows phone or Android phone or iPhone, any of the phones, you would be preferring that on all of the operating systems it is working fine. Otherwise, it is not going to gain a lot of users. If some application is going to become operating system specific, then you cannot actually have a global presence, because not everyone is going to be upgrading their operating system just because they want to use some application, right? So whenever we target a bigger user base, we should always be considering that it should be able to work on different operating system. Now, the next one is latency should be low. Now, what does it mean? So, like, let us say you have seen a video. Like, let us say somebody is sending you some video link, or you are seeing some video link, like, if you will opening some of the website, some YouTube shorts or not. So, initially, you're going to be seeing some of the thumbnails. So, once you have seen some of the thumbnails, what you will do? You will click on it, and then it is going to be taking some time to play that video. So that particular time here, we are referring that as latency. So whenever any such thing is going to happen, in that case, we would be preferring that it should take lesser time. So when you talk about latency here, so that should be as less as possible. Okay. So if you want to improve this latency, what you will have to do, you will have to do multiple things so that you can solve this latency problem. So one of that problem can be solved by improving the network. And there will be other strategies also that we need to do in order to keep this latency high. Everyone clear? So like, I have just listed down few of the non-functional requirements. Of course, there are going to be many, but I have only considered few here. All right. Now let's talk about the application feed, how the timeline is generated. So by the timeline, what I mean that when you are going to, like, open the page, so what you should be seeing there, when you will see video 1 first, then what should happen? The video 2 link should be there, right? If you talk about Instagram reels or anything, so what happens? If this is your feed page, if some video is playing, let us say video 1, but generally happen after that, you have the option of scrolling it, and then your video 2 will get played. Basically that is what is happening, right? And this is non-stop, so that is what people do, they just scroll there. Also, like, when you are going to close that application, when you are again going to be using this app again, so you would like that the video you have seen, like, after this, like whenever you're going to be resuming, like let us say you have left it on video 4, so when you are minimizing and resuming, you would want video 4, or let us say the application doesn't storing this information, they will just open some other video, like let us say some bn, some other video is getting open. All right. So what I'm explaining here is that whenever you will be opening that application, you are going to be seeing some interface. So how that is going to be designed. Also, like, if you talk about some individual users, so they are actually going to be seeing a lot of videos over a period of time. So how those videos are going to get fetched. So based up, and like, if you will see that, okay, I'll tell you, like, the Instagram. If you are seeing a lot of uh, cooking related videos, so after a while, like, even if you will see some 2 or 3 cooking related video, then they will start suggesting you new videos. So here what we are making use of, we are making use of recommendation system. And what this one is going to do, this one is going to be suggesting videos, right? So if you are going to be creating such platform, you are going to be having a recommendation system there. This recommendation system is going to be built through various ways. You can either do it with the help of machine learning, or you can do it by applying some kind of statistical analysis. So basically you are just trying to see that there should be a way through which you can suggest some video to the user. All right, everyone clear? So this is something which we should be implementing here. Now, the next thing which we need to do here is we should make sure that we are ready with the infrastructure so that we can bring our TikTok to production. Because once my application is ready, I need to bring it to the live, right? And for doing that, I will be needing some kind of estimation that what are the factors I need, how much storage I will be needing, how much compute will I need, how much network bandwidth I will need. So I'm going to be focusing on all of these stuff. So for this, every time you will be sitting in the industry when you will be working. So for all these estimation, you are going to be sitting with your team members. You are going to be deciding that how many machines you are going to be acquiring, how much storage, how much database, how much machines that you are actually going to be needing in order to implement the same. So you are going to be performing all of these calculations. Similarly, when you are approaching to any company interviewer, you are going to demonstrate that same with your interviewer. To that guy, you are going to be making these questions that, okay, this is what I am estimating. You let me know what are your inputs on that. So you will initially you will have to come up with complete numbers so that you can actually put it in front of that interviewer. So for that, you are going to be estimating the total load. Yeah, so you will have to estimate the total storage. You will have to estimate the total read traffic, the total write traffic on that application. So first of all, let us say that how many total number of users you are going to be having. So let us say the total number of users are, let us say 1 billion. And now let us say that, even if everyone is going to be installing that application, they are going to be registering for that application, but not everyone is going to be actively using it. So let us say that 50% of users are active. All right. So what does it mean? That you are roughly going to be having 0.5 billion users. And after this, you will have to see that when you talk about users, so what kind of users you are going to be having. So we are broadly going to be having two type of users. So the first one is going to be your content creators, and the second one is going to be the content consumers. So if you will see today, a lot of influencers are there, and they broadly come in the category of content creators because they are creating the content which we are consuming. So we are the content consumers. Okay. Now, one more thing is there. The number of content creators are going to be less than the total number of people who are watching the video. All right. Let's talk about Instagram. Of course, we have a lot of influencers there. We have a lot of content creators are there. And this content is getting created in different areas. Some people are actually creating some fashion related content, some are creating cooking related and whatnot. But even if you will see, the ratio is still going to be different. We will be having more content consumers and less content creators. So let us say the ratio between content creators versus content consumers is, let us say, 1 is to 100. So for every 100 content consumers, we are going to be having one content creator. For every 100 person who are interested in watching that Instagram reel or the TikTok video, there is going to be one person who is actually creating that content for you. So now we will determine how many total number of content creators will be. So like I said, how many total users we have? 5 billion, zero point 0.5 billion, right? And after this, I'm saying for one, we are having we have this 1 is to 100 ratio, right? So this is roughly going to be bringing to a 5 into 10 power minus 3 billion, right? So why I am interested in the content creator count? So I am looking at this number, because when you talk about the same question in the interview, so everything, whatever you are going to be doing, everything is going to depend upon your interviewer, what that guy is going to be asking. So that is the reason I'm also considering this content creator, because why we actually need them, that is because these are the guys who will actually upload the video. So if you talk about the read write rate, so that is something which you are going to be getting through this content creators only. Being a consumer, you are only reading, but if you talk about the writing part, so these content creators are basically going to be writing down there, correct? So let us say that we have to consider that some creators are going to be creating videos, right? So let us say that on an average, videos which are getting created per day. So let us say we are having 10 videos in a day. Now, some creators, I'm not exactly taking a proper count, but it could be anything. Some people can actually be creating more videos, some creators can be creating less videos, but I'm taking only the average count here. And we're also going to be considering duration of each video. For these reels and all, we are getting a time of 60 seconds. So on an average, we can say that every creator creates one video, like, 1 minute video, right? So let us say that for all of this, let us say how much total size is going to be there. So let us say that average size, I'm just assuming, okay? So the average size of one video, let us say that is 1 MB. So how much total storage we are going to be needing? So the total storage is going to become 5 into 10 power minus 3 into 1 MB. So this is the size, and here actually we have billion. So this is the size which we are going to be needing, correct? So if you talk about this 1 MB, you can also convert it into bytes. So this will be becoming, correct? And if you have to talk about 1 GB, so 1 GB is approximately equal to 1 billion bytes, correct? So what we will be doing, we can say that this is roughly equal to your 5 into 10 power 3 GB per day. So this is your 5000 GB per day. And if you have to convert it into TB, so this is going to be roughly becoming 5 TB per day. So this is the total amount of data which we are creating per day. And if you talk about this data, 5 TB, this is a huge amount of data. So every day I will be needing 5 TB of data. So for that, if you will have to see that how much space you will require after 2 years. Because when you talk about scalability, what we want, this application should be able to run after 6 months, after 2 years. Like whenever you are going to be looking at it, you should be able to use it properly, right? So how much storage we are going to be needing? If I'm saying it requires 5 TB of data in a year, we have 365 days. And if you're talking about 2 years, so you are going to be multiplying it by 2. So this is going to be like, 5 into 2 is 10. So it is going to be equal to 3650. So you can just convert it to petabytes. So this is going to be 3.65 petabytes. So this is the amount of data which we are going to be storing in 2 years from now. If we talk about 3.5 petabytes of data, so this is a huge data itself. Now, what I mentioned in one of my non-functional requirement, that it should be fault tolerant. So for a system to be fault tolerant, what I told you, what you should be doing, you should be replicating your data. So now, if you are going to be replicating this data, if you are like, replicating this data at 2 other places as well, so you can say multiply by 2, or let me say about the replication factor. Like generally we say we should be having a replication factor of 3. Like your entire data should be available at 3 other locations as well. So what is going to be the total size for that? That is going to be 3.65 into 3. So this much amount of data we are going to be requiring. Also, I had one more requirement where I was saying that it should be able to run on different operating system. Now, every operating system is going to be having a different file format. For a video, for a picture, anything, all of the operating systems are having different file formats. So what we are going to be doing, like, generally how it happens for any of the videos. So if you have any video, let us say we are considering one format which is MP4, one format which is MKV. I'm just considering these two formats. Now for this video, we are also like, if you talk about YouTube and all, you know that we have different resolutions for that. So 360,